So welcome back. And notice again, I've started with house prices version 2. And I'm going to try and save that as the next version, which is version 5. Every time we make a substantial change. And again, we've been working with one variable column at a time. Now we're going to look at two variables. And like we did, we'll start with working with the categorical data. And this time we'll make a contingency table comparing region and color. So we do that again with pivot tables, but a little bit differently. So we go back to Insert, Pivot Table, and it knows where we're looking for. For consistency, I'll put it in L3, the table in L3. I'll say OK. And then here, I slide down, not there. I'll slide down this list, and I'll click on region for the rows. And then color, I'll drag to the columns. And then you can take either one and drag it into the values box. And then I will close that. And we'll scroll up, and I'll scroll a little bit over to the right. And you can see that it has created what's called a contingency table, where it's organized the data by region and house type. So if you look at the upper left value of 5, that means there are 5 blue houses in the central region. On the lower right, there are 2 yellow houses in the south region. And then notice that there's a blank for the intersection of brown and south. That means there should be a 0. There are no houses in the south region that were brown. And these contingency tables are helpful when you have two categorical variables and you want to get a sense as to how they interrelate. So the next thing we're going to do is create a scatter plot. Scatter plots are one of the most useful tools to get an idea as to the relationship between two variables. So to do this, I'm going to actually break out some of the data into a new tab. So I'm going to take column C and highlight it. I'm going to right-click, copy. I'm going to click on the plus, or that could be slightly different in the older versions, to create a new tab. I'm going to right-click, paste. And so now I've got my bedrooms in column A, and this is important that bedrooms are in column A. My house price data, I'm going to now select price and copy it into that sheet. So I went a little fast there. I'm going to right-click, copy, go over to sheet 1, and in column B, right-click, paste. So it doesn't look too different than what we've been working with. And I'll call this beds versus price. Now, one of the great things about scatter plots is that the scatter plot function is pretty consistent throughout all the versions. All you need to do is say Insert, click on the icon that looks like this, which is sort of a bunch of dots on a grid, and click. We're going to just take the most basic scatter plot, although you can see there's lots more options. You can make it look interesting. And we only want to get the basics here. So this looks pretty darn good. We might want to add a label at the bottom to indicate that that's the number of bedrooms. And let's click off of that. So here, you see that as you go from 2 to 3 to 4 to 5 to 6 bedrooms, uh, save for a few data points that don't quite fit, you can sort of see the fact that as the more bedrooms you have, the higher the house price is. And that makes some sense. So now let's kind of look at something a little bit different, because there we started with discrete data, and you'll see that everything fits in nicely into 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's take another data variable, and we'll do the house size, not just the number of bedrooms, the square feet of the house. And we'll copy that, and we'll add a new tab and paste. Again, I'm hoping that these copying and paste skills are not terribly new to you. I'll go back to the main house price data, copy and paste the price into column B, and we'll say square feet versus price. And once you've got that set up, the nice thing here, 2 quick clicks, and now you can see a deeper relationship, again, very clearly, that as the size of the house gets larger, the prices go up. Now, there's a few houses that are a little higher than they likely should be, and that's always curious. But you can see here that by touching the data point, and this works in most versions, we could see that that is the point where the square footage was 1,202, and the price was on the relatively high side, $306,000 and $306,500. We could go back and look at more closely at that and perhaps notice there was something else. See if we can find that. Let's see, 306, 1,202. Where is that one? One of the last ones, house number 38. Now, notice that it was on a fairly large lot. So perhaps the difference in value is the fact that it was almost 2 acres. And that's a pretty big parcel of land, particularly if you just look at the other houses, even in this 10 house set, none of them were even over an acre. So if you go back to the scatter plot, you can see that that relationship is pretty tight, save for a few oddities. Well, of course, there are other reasons for that. Now, what you could do, and you can do this for a lot of the different things, is go back and try this with any pair of variables that you want. Perhaps the next one might be lot size. That's all for this video. We'll see you at the next one.